What?
I can't handle the fact that you have no hair, and the fact that you took the glasses off and made you look, significantly like a grandpa.
Yeah, well.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I am a grandpa, so.
Yeah, I know, but still, I'm still trying to get used to you having no hair. It was like shell shock for me. I don't think I've ever seen you without hair.
No. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We're back. And today, the topic is, if you couldn't tell from the little sketch that we did before this, movies that everybody else loves that we don't.
Yeah.
And maybe don't understand.
Or it's one of those things where, for whatever reason, the media is like, you gotta love this movie! Mm-hmm. And we're just like, no. Mm-hmm. Please stop.
I made a list years ago on Manic Expression. It was like the top 5 movies that everybody says are great that I refuse to watch. Mm-hmm. And my whole, I opened it by saying, movie snobs need to back off and just
but we're movie snobs.
What? And then I got absolutely roasted for, one of the movies, obviously, from the sketch we did is Gone with the Wind. I have never seen it. I don't want to see it. I have no interest in seeing it.
Okay, but what if I give you $5 to watch it?
No.
A penny.
How did you...
Pennies are going to be rare one day. They're going to stop making them, and then you'll be like, oh, I wish I would have taken that penny from Carly.
I remember that also on my list were Birth of a Nation. I don't care that it's the first movie ever made. And The Social Network, because who fucking cares how Facebook started?
Yeah, no, I haven't watched that one. I refuse to watch that one. I also refused to watch the new Batman movie.
Didn't miss out.
I also just was not a whole fan of the whole entire, Superman versus Batman idea, so I never watched it.
Didn't miss out.
Most of the DC movies I haven't seen, except for, unless they are, pre-2000. I've seen all the other, Batman movies because, they're great.
Yeah.
But no, I think another one, too, that me and you have seen, but absolutely hated, what's it called? It's like that sci-fi movie where they're up in space and this girl wakes up, and there's a, robot guy, and he's played by Michael Fassbender.
Oh, Prometheus.
Yeah, Prometheus. I hate it so much. I hate Prometheus so much. It was hyped up so much.
That's one that actually made me angry leaving the theater, because I was really excited about that, and then I walked out going, that was so...
I had a best friend at the time. Me and him had created the sci-fi club at school.
Nerd.
Yeah, huge nerds. I was the vice president. And then, yeah, and then he graduated from high school, and he was mad at me that I didn't continue the sci-fi club, and I'm like, well, I got shit to do. But, no, we went and saw Prometheus, 5 times. Mm-hmm. Each and every time I fell asleep. Mm. And I only went with him because he was my only friend at the time. Mm. And we were just best friends. We were huge nerds. We'd watch One Tree Hill. We'd watch Smallville. We'll watch Star Wars, Star Trek, all these different things. Mm. And then we went to Prometheus. I think towards the last time we saw it, he ended up putting popcorn in my mouth.
Oh.
To get back at me for falling asleep.
Well, what is your first official movie on your list?
So how mad do you think I'm going to make people?
Oh, I've got a few that's going to make people mad. You start.
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow. I'm just gonna settle in and let you handle this.
No offense to Judy Garland, I love her.
Mm.
I hate The Wizard of Oz. I refuse to watch it as an adult.
Okay, what? Why?
So my mom loved this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and anytime I would stay with her, we'd end up watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be like Glinda, and she was like, oh, I went and was on a play, and I got to do this like Glinda, or something along those lines that I remember as a kid being like, that's cool.
Mm.
But it really got to me when my brother started to sing the Munchkin song.
Mm.
And anytime we would watch this movie, he'd end up singing the Munchkin song. Like, Lollipop Kill. It was just, he'd do the dance too, and my brother is like 6'2" and will still do it to this day just to piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
But, so the reason why I don't like this movie, I think it's overhyped. I think it's really, really overhyped. Yes, there are great aspects to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not denying that. I just think it's really stupid how this teenage girl is like, oh, I'm just in a magical world. I just killed someone. I'm going to take her shoes. Bye. And then I just don't like how it is. So, yes, I understand it's supposed to be a mystical world and thing.
Mm-hmm.
But just how they transition throughout the story seems way too quick and way too, like, I just feel like Dorothy's dumb.
Yeah. I mean, no one else thinks that.
No, everyone I've talked to is like, how could she be dumb? I mean, she's going to try to get home and she's really kind to everyone. I'm like, yeah, she's very kind and stupid.
I mean, there's also the possibility that the whole thing is a dream, or as proven in the sequel film that came out in the 80s, that she's psychotic and being electroshocked.
Well, that's what cracked me up about the sequel, is that the first movie is so light and happy and whatever. And then I feel like the sequel actually is more towards the books.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if they had done that with the original movie where they made it a little bit darker, but they're not going to because it's the, golden age of Hollywood, and they're going to say, no, we want something happy, and we want to, make it, face paint that's toxic for, people's skin. But, if they had made it a little bit darker, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more, because I feel like it's just too out there.
I mean, I will say one of my favorite things I ever saw on the internet was, I think it was actually from a TV Guide listing that some smartass did, where it said the plot summary was 2 women fight over a pair of shoes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing too, is that she steals shoes from a dead person.
She didn't mean to. I mean, they just sort of magically appear on her feet.
I mean, and that's the whole other thing too, is like she's put in this situation. If it were me, if I were Dorothy, I would not be singing and jogging along the frickin' road. I'd be sitting there and being like, I gotta fucking go. There's lions talking to me, there's a scarecrow talking to me, I'm pretty sure he wants to fuck me. I gotta go. That's the other weird part too, is that...
the Tin Man didn't want to fuck her.
No, the Tin Man didn't.
Tin Man wanted to fuck the Scarecrow.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, that's the other concept too, is that they don't say it because she's supposed to be a kid. She is clearly not a kid. And they have this weird chemistry between her and the Scarecrow. Like, great actors. Doing a great job for the time. It's great. I just feel like there's a really weird chemistry between Dorothy and the Scarecrow. And it made me as a kid feel awkward about it.
I mean, I always just saw it as like a friendship thing, but
No.
apparently you're writing some fan fiction up in your head.
No, I'm not writing fan fiction. At the end of the movie, she's sitting there and she's saying, you know, the person I'll miss most of all is you, Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm always imagining the Tin Man and the Lion just going, what the fuck?
Well, and Family Guy did a stint on that too, where like Dorothy says that, and the Lion and the Tin Man are just like,
yeah. Well,
I also thought the Cowardly Lion was obnoxious.
so you have no inner child, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was not the girl that was like, oh, I want to be like Dorothy, blah, blah, blah. If anything, I'm probably the Wicked Witch.
Well, my number 5, and I'll preface this by saying it's the only one on my list that the other 4 movies I wish I liked.
Yeah.
This one, I don't, because I'm just sort of morally opposed to it, and that's Bonnie and Clyde.
Why do you not like Bonnie and Clyde?
Because Bonnie and Clyde were cold-blooded murderers. They were not anti-heroes, and the way that the movie romanticizes them is something that I've always had a problem with. When I finally saw the movie, I thought it was boring.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to call a gangster an anti-hero, you know, you would want to call John Dillinger that. Bonnie and Clyde do not deserve that title whatsoever.
There's actually a great movie that came out on Netflix a few years ago called The Highwaymen with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, where it unromanticizes Bonnie and Clyde. But the movie actually even takes like the law enforcement that were after them and turns them into buffoons that you're rooting against.
Yeah. And
I remember watching the movie going, and I guess even back in the day when the movie came out, Texas Rangers, who they're making fun of, the family sued the production because they were like, this is defamatory.
Yeah.
It's just one of those movies where everybody's like, oh, it made the AFI top 100 movies and everything. And
one of those ones that shouldn't have been romanticized.
No, I was always like, the gangster as anti-hero can work if you remember that they're still the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Corleone in The Godfather is an anti-hero. He's still the bad guy. And Bonnie and Clyde are presented as Romeo and Juliet. And I always just had a icky feeling about that.
The funny thing about Romeo and Juliet is that, you know, that's actually a play making fun of idiotic, you know, teenage love. So when people have the Romeo and Juliet, you know, esque vibe to it, that's what it makes me think of. It's like, you guys are just idiots. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the movies that almost made my list was the Romeo and Juliet movie from the 90s.
That's almost made my list too. I watched that, I think, once, and I remember, like, just sitting there and being like, what the fuck did I just watch?
I remember just laughing. It got shown to us because we were doing Shakespeare in high school, and the movie had just come out on video, and so the teacher was like, oh, I'll show this in the class, and, you know, they'll be with it, because, you know, it's new and everything. Yeah. And the girls were all crying, and the boys were all laughing the entire time.
That's not, you know, surprising at all. I think where I watched it was actually in high school, in our English class, when we did Romeo and Juliet, right after we had done the Salem witch trials. So, having this be, you know, our teachers essentially being like, yeah, this is Romeo and Juliet, this is fine, and having it essentially be a terrible, if not like mock-up version.
But Bonnie and Clyde follows that Romeo and Juliet template. I hate Romeo and Juliet. I mostly hate it. You're right. It is just about stupid teenagers. And then somehow along the lines it turned into the greatest love story ever.
It's not a great love story, though.
It's a terrible love story. And
they just want to, like, to call it the greatest love story of all time because some old guy in England wrote it.
Mm-hmm. But Bonnie and Clyde has always been a big nope for me.
Mm-hmm.
What's your number 4?
Grease.
Thank you. Oh, how did I forget Grease?
Grease and its sequel.
I never saw the sequel.
Sequel's terrible.
Everybody makes you watch Grease. Nobody makes you watch Grease 2.
Yeah. No. Grease, again, was introduced to me by my mom.
Mm.
And she was like, you'll love this. You love musicals. And I, like, at first, I liked the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, the story...
It has some good songs.
It has some good songs, but, like, the story itself is just cringy. It's cringy, and then they're all, like, in their 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to tell me that I need to look at Kaneki and say that he's a teenage boy?
Mm-hmm.
Or Rizzo?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she has clearly been smoking, like, cigarette packs, like, twice a day.
For 15 years.
Yeah. Like, she's not a teenager.
No.
And just the whole whiny aspect of Sandy. Sandy is so whiny.
Mm-hmm.
She is so obnoxious.
Throughout the entire movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And then even towards the end...
You're supposed to cheer for her because she decides to, conform to him. Yeah, that's great. Good job.
Well, and I've made that argument and people go, well, I mean, he reached out because he tried to be like what she would want. And I'm like, yeah, and the second she shows up in the leather pants, he throws off that sweater. He's just like, fuck it, let's just do what I want to do.
Yeah, it's essentially, going into saying that, what she wants doesn't matter. And then there's the whole theory of saying that she died on the beach.
Yeah.
And that the whole sequence of them driving off in the car is her in a dream.
Mm.
And I'm like, no. It's just it's the 70s. They're just wanting a stupid ending. Shut up. They're trying to be romantic.
Yeah.
She's not dead.
No.
Like, they would have said something in the beginning. It's the 70s. They were trying to be more rebellious than, movies beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
They would have done something like that if they wanted to do something like that. This is Grease. It's a cheesy, romantic attempt at a comedy.
Yeah, I never ever have enjoyed it. It's not a movie I hate. It's a movie that I feel like you felt about Wizard of Oz is so overrated that and it just there's something about it that just it's off-putting to me.
Yeah.
And I've never ever found it enjoyable.
Well, I don't like so we've talked about this before. We talked about how people are treated or whatever. I don't like how the guys treat the women in it. And I know it's supposed to be like the 1950s or
made in the 1970s.
Yeah, whatever. But it's one of those things where it's like it's so uncomfortable to watch, and just trying to see Sandy make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Like she has a good character up until she I want to say the dance scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or not even, maybe before that. I think it was after. It's in between the parts of where she's singing her, solo song to, the dance scene. That's where her character becomes, all completely, just keeps going downhill.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. Of, movie musicals, it's considered one of the best, and I've never, ever found it to be.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to, movie musicals, there are better options out there, like West Side Story, or I know that one's a little bit overrated too at this point, but West Side Story is still a better story than Grease.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many other choices, and I hate the whole just the whole idea that if you're bullied enough, you can be the perfect woman that your man wants.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people don't see that.
Or if you're not ready to have sex, but he wants to, then just
open your legs.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's stupid.
Yeah.
And it's still really weird to see John Travolta young. he has a big head for his skinny body. Like, as he got older, he actually grew into his body.
Yeah, but now that he's bald, he looks like he's got a huge head again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a bobblehead. I mean, you can't talk.
Not right now, no.
But no, he's a bobblehead.
Yeah. Xenu has not blessed him.
No.
The way he's blessed Tom Cruise.
Yeah, no.
So.
I mean, that's another thing too, is that in that movie, I feel like John Travolta is like the main focus. Like, he stole Kanicki's song, because in the actual like Broadway play, Grease Lightning is Kanicki's song, not Danny's song.
It goes to show how much I know about Grease.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it's really obnoxious that they catered to him so much. And I get that in the 70s he was like a big 70s and 80s he was like a big deal.
And he's coming off of Saturday Night Fever at that point, so.
But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, he's really not that good of an actor. Or at least not in my opinion.
He's had his moments, but overall, there's a reason why his popularity wanes the way that it does. Is like, somebody will cast him in something like Pulp Fiction or Get Shorty, and you're like, oh, John Travolta's awesome, and then like every movie afterwards, you're like, oh, right. Honestly,
when it comes to the like musicals I've seen him in, I prefer him in Hairspray when he's a fat lady.
Dancing with Christopher Walken.
Yeah. That's a couple I can, get behind.
My number 4 is one I only watched recently for the first time. Wanted to like it so bad. MASH.
Like the movie?
The movie MASH.
I got in 2 seconds, not even 30 seconds maybe, into it, and I had to turn it off. And I had to turn the TV show on.
That is, and I wonder if one of the reasons I don't like it is because the TV show is just so much better. But it's another one of those movies, I think it was on the AFI, it was definitely on the greatest comedies list. I didn't laugh once.
Yeah. I think what also gets me is that the guy who plays Hawkeye is the same actor who plays the father in Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley. So Mr. Bennett. Yep. And he's also, what's it called? President Snow. From the Hunger Games. And so it's like, it's really weird to see you young and trying to be funny like Hawkeye, because I've only seen you in like serious, menacing roles.
And it threw me off because all these years I thought Elliot Gould was Hawkeye in it. And he's the other character whose name? Trapper. He's Trapper John. Yeah, I mean, other than the actor who plays Radar, who's the only one that crosses over from the movie to the show, the entire cast is different. And I'm not judging it based entirely on comparing it to the show. I just, as a movie, I found it meandering. I found it like I found myself, maybe this is just because I've gotten older, I found myself kind of rooting for Robert Duvall, because I was like, yeah, he's supposed to be Frank in it. In the show, we love to hate Frank.
Yeah.
But with Robert Duvall, I'm just sort of like, yeah, he's the only grown up here. Maybe you should listen to him.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, going back to like Frank, you're supposed to love to hate him because he's supposed to be that annoying character. And then in the movie, the fact that you get so annoyed by the other portrayals that Frank is the only character that you can be like rooting for. I mean, I feel like if they had cast the people who originally played the roles, it would have been so much better.
You mean in the actors who played the roles in the TV show?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the movie came first.
I know, but if they had like done like casting.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
To like look, for these people.
By the end of the movie, there's like a football game that goes on for feels like 30 minutes, and none of it's funny. I'm judging it based solely on it being a comedy, and maybe also at the time, everybody's like, well, this is revolutionary because it's making fun of the army, and it's set in Korea, but it's really about Vietnam and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just judging it based on the context of like watching it now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't laugh. I don't think I even smiled
Right.
through the whole movie. I wanted to, but the movie never really got me there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's hard with, comedies like that.
Mm.
Especially, coming from like this day and age, me and you have the capability of being able to watch the TV show.
Mm.
And then when we get really excited and want to watch the movies to it, we're almost setting ourselves up to fail.
Yeah. As like I said, I love movies from that era.
Mm-hmm.
This one just doesn't work for me. And I think that you could judge a movie based on like what it did at the time, but if it doesn't have that timeless quality to where you could just pop it in and enjoy it now.
Yeah.
There's plenty of movies that are allegories for Vietnam or whatever, and they work completely for me. But
right.
MASH just doesn't do it.
No, I get that. Like I could nap to this movie.
Mm.
It's a good napping movie.
I literally watched it like 2 months ago, and I don't remember a whole lot about it.
Yeah. See, like going back to like Gone with the Wind, MASH, what's it called? Wizard of Oz.
Mm.
All good napping movies.
Mm.
So if you want to take a nap in the sun and just relax, I mean, be a cat, put on these movies.
Pretty much. What's your number 3?
Singing in the Rain.
Ooh, okay.
So I love Gene Kelly. I love him to death, and don't get me wrong, there are certain parts of this movie I absolutely love. However, again, it's one of those ones that are overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And the storyline of the movie, here's the issue I have. Again, we have an actor who is so, like, essentially, they're fluffing up his feathers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were doing with Gene Kelly. At this point in time with Singing in the Rain, he was, like, at the peak of his career.
I think didn't he either direct or co-directed this movie?
Yeah. And so he got to make a lot of the creative decisions, and that's great. He's a creative guy, and we got to see more dancing compared to singing, and that's great. I will always root for that because I think he's a great dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I would preferably watch that because I think it's more entertaining, I guess. Like, especially with the sequences that they have. However, you have when, right in the beginning of the movie when he's talking about his, like, journey here or whatever, it just goes on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And I get he's trying to be a storyteller and it's part of the movie or whatever. I get that. It just goes on. And then we see another instance of this when they're trying to make a movie, and then, Gene comes up and says that, oh, he has a big, musical number. Mm. And I feel like that's a good half of, like, the second half of the movie. That's all that number is. Like, for the movie.
And I can't remember exactly, because it's been a while since I've seen it. I know there's a song called Beautiful Girls.
Beautiful Girls, I hate it because it doesn't need to be in there.
It just doesn't, it doesn't have, and there's like a whole part of that where I don't even remember what's happening in that scene. They're making a movie, but...
they're trying to find Kathy Selden, who is played by the great Debbie Reynolds. Mm. And so they want to hire Kathy to be in a movie, but, Dawn comes up, who's played by Gene Kelly, and, he sees her, and, it's essentially this whole romance going on because she apparently has never seen his movies, thinks that he's some, like, whatever actor, and, turns out that she's seen all of his movies and that, she actually loves his acting and everything, and this whole romance buds around their secret relationship, which is fine and everything. However, they're beautiful girls. The beginning conversation scene that he's having with the reporter about his backstory, and then the whole, like, dance number scene that takes up forever, just scenes that don't need to be in there. They could have told a better story instead of just throwing these dance scenes in there or like these musical numbers in there, because it looks like an incomplete movie to me, and then it's so random. Like at the end, and I don't want to say it ends randomly, because, you know, the whole point of the movie is that they're trying to convert from, you know, silent pictures to talking pictures. And the main antagonist is Lena Dumont or whatever, and she has a very nasally voice. And, you know, credit to the actress, you know, she doesn't actually speak like that.
Yeah.
But it kind of drives me nuts at the end in how they, like, expose everything. They put Kathy behind a curtain to speak for Lena or sing for Lena, and then they expose, you know, Kathy that way. And, you know, Kathy gets embarrassed and she runs away, or tries to, and, you know, Gene, being the guy who saved the day, you know, tells everyone to stop her and be like, hey, this is the girl that you know, you loved her voice or whatever. It's great to end that way, but to me, how it looks like now, I'm just sitting here and I'm like,
it's a little...
You bullied her into being this voice and having her to go up there just so then you can expose everything. That's so humiliating.
And it doesn't sound great anymore. Stop that girl.
Yeah.
Like, forcibly restrain her.
Forcibly restrain her, even though I made her do something that made her really uncomfortable, and now I've embarrassed her. Now come to my arms and kiss me.
I guess the thing with... Because I actually feel more that way about another Gene Kelly movie, An American in Paris.
I love American in Paris.
See,
That's
I find
my
that
favorite
meandering.
movie.
But, like, Singing in the Rain, I think the thing is, you are right about it. The highs that it hits are so astronomically high. And then it... Like, I mean, Singing in the Rain, Good Morning.
Moses
Supposes. Those are all, like, would be some of the best musical numbers. Make 'em laugh. Oh, God, Make 'em laugh. I love
Make 'em laugh.
Would be some of the best musical numbers ever filmed. And then there's Beautiful Girls, and then there's like stuff that just sort of drags and goes on.
Right,
and...
like I said, it's that whole dance number scene where he's trying to explain to, like, the head executive what they want to do, like, towards the, like, end of the movie or whatever. And it's just this whole, like, scene, and it's called, like, Gotta Dance or whatever. And it just goes on and on, and it's a great, like, show for Gene's, you know, artistic ability and dance ability, but it's solely focusing on
the story gets lost.
Him dancing. Like, the story is completely lost, and then we're supposed to just go back to being like, oh, now we're back.
Yeah, it's like a musical interlude in a musical, which is awkward. And
yeah, if he had not done that, I think it only worked when he did American in Paris, because there was, like, an actual, like, reason to at that point in time, because Gene Kelly does this again, you know, in American in Paris. It's the first time he had done it, but the difference is that Leslie Caron, who plays the girl in American in Paris, she's a, like, trained dancer. She's in the dance scenes with him, so you can see that they're talking about him and her. And it's not just expecting, like, oh, well, when is this going to end? You know, you're actually feeling his emotions of, you know, oh, I just lost the love of my life and I want her back. That's what that whole dance sequence is about. Singing in the Rain, it's just talking about how this guy wants to dance.
Yeah.
In this scene. It has nothing to do with the movie. No concept. You just get to see Gene Kelly be handsome and a great dancer. And I mean, I'm not complaining, but I wouldn't want to watch it in a movie.
Oh, he's hot in that movie. He can have me.
Yeah, no, he's... I would marry that man if, you know...
He wasn't dead.
Yeah. He died a year after I was born, so... But no, I really, like, I love parts of that movie, but it's one of those movies that are very is one of the best of all time.
Mm.
And it's like, no. Gene Kelly was better in American in Paris, The Pirate, you know, just all these other ones that he was in, and they get so overshadowed by Singing in the Rain that it's like,
Well,
he did so much more than Singing in the Rain.
When you have a movie that literally has one of the most iconic moments in all of film, it's very hard to...
Dancing in the Rain, it was the most iconic.
I mean, if you say greatest musical number of all time, that's the number that a lot of people would pick.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I did hear that he, performed that scene while sick, so that probably makes it even more impressive. But it's one of those things too where, and I'm not dissing Gene Kelly, I love Gene Kelly, and I think he did a great part in, that scene. I'm not doubting that. I just don't think. I think there's better movies of him.
All right, we'll cut it. Let's start the next. Okay. Well.
1 second, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Scrungus. My number 3 kind of breaks my heart because I've tried so many times to like this movie. It is considered by the AFI to be the second greatest comedy of all time.
Oh no.
And that is Tootsie.
Okay, tell me what Tootsie is about.
Dustin Hoffman is an actor who can't get hired because he's got a bad reputation. So he decides to pretend to be a woman so he could get a part on a soap opera. And hilarity is supposed to ensue.
And this is number 2?
This is the number 2 on the AFI's 100 greatest comedies list.
Okay, why do people think it's funny? Like, just because he's dressing up in drag?
Well, and then he has to figure out, like, he has to navigate being a woman and what it's like to be a woman. And he's not an attractive woman, which it's actually... When they interviewed Dustin Hoffman for that AFI thing, he gets emotional over the fact that, like, he wasn't an attractive woman and how that made him feel. And
it's women every day, man.
Yeah. But it seems like a movie I should like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Dustin Hoffman's roommate in it is Bill Murray, who is hilarious and who isn't even credited in the movie. He's got a fairly significant part, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just doing it for fun."
Yeah. See, that's like why Bill Murray's great.
Yeah, Bill Murray will just show up.
Yeah.
Like if he really wants to, he'll just show up and be like, "Yeah, whatever. I'm just here to have fun."
Mm-hmm.
I have tried. Oh, because it is one of those movies where in my head I go, "No, I like it. I'll watch it again. I'll see that I like it." And then I turn it on and I'm just, it's like MASH. It has funny moments in it. Unlike MASH, it will make me laugh here and there. But I can't get into it.
Yeah.
I want to, and there are other movies that I've had that issue with where eventually over time, like Escape from New York is one where I didn't get it, and I watched it like 4 times, and like on the 4th time, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched Tootsie like 4 or 5 times, and it never ever clicks with me.
Who was a better woman, Dustin Hoffman or Monty Python?
Dustin Hoffman was a better portrayal of a woman. Monty Python would at least make me laugh.
Yeah. Being
a woman, but. Everybody in the movie is good. The direction is good. I can't even tell you why.
If it hadn't been labeled as a comedy, do you think you would have liked it?
I don't know, because the premise is inherently silly.
Yeah.
And then they try to do interesting things with it. They don't just go, "Oh, we're just making a funny. Isn't it funny? He's in a dress. Ha ha ha." It's more like this guy who has to now be like he didn't value women particularly, and now he has to be one, and he has to learn what that is like. and the he's getting hit on by men and
was this when he was younger?
yeah, this was like 82, I want to say, something
Okay.
like that. Jessica Lange is in it. She won an Oscar for playing because he falls in love with one of his co-stars, but she thinks he's a woman, and then she meets. I think it's presented as Dustin Hoffman is supposed to be the brother or something, and she doesn't like him, but and there are plenty of bits in it that are funny. It just doesn't.
Here's a better question: who's a better woman, Dustin Hoffman or Robin Williams?
Robin Williams is a funnier woman. Dustin Hoffman can be funny in movies. Dustin Hoffman is one of my favorite actors of all time. And he's playing this part seriously in that he wants to convey the feelings and this man who has he's had this shit reputation because he's actually basically playing himself in the movie, because Dustin Hoffman is notorious about showing up on a movie set and going, "This is all wrong. We're gonna do it my way," and
so being a prick,
and it's like Edward Norton. Edward Norton did the same thing when he was in Birdman, where he just played his reputation as Edward Norton. But I want to like it. It just never works for me.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I haven't heard good things about it. I've heard that Dustin Hoffman is trying too hard in it.
I don't even know if it's that. It's just it doesn't make me laugh enough to be a good comedy.
Yeah.
It doesn't engage me enough to be a good drama. It goes on a little too long, which doesn't help things.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've established the premise and you've played with it a little bit, there's just not a whole lot more to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. It's one of those movies that I haven't seen, but I've also been deterred from it. Because I just don't know, I just didn't sound appealing to me at all. And I'm one of those people who also likes Dustin Hoffman, but I've seen him in, films where he doesn't have to necessarily try hard and he's just funny.
Yeah.
And when I heard that he was trying too hard, it was just nope, can't do it. I don't want to ruin the image I have of him in my head. And
it doesn't, I mean, like I said, this is a movie where I feel like I just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a movie where, like with MASH, where I'm like, that doesn't hold up, or Bonnie and Clyde, where I think it's just morally fucked up. This is one where I feel like this is on me. Mm-hmm. I'm just not connecting with it in a way that so many others have.
Right. I'm sure that, that says, it's like a 50-50 thing when I hear this movie. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it's you either love it or you hate it, type things.
What's your number 2?
The Blair Witch Project.
Okay. Okay. You had to be there.
I don't believe it for a second. It's one of those things that are too overhyped. Mm. And, you keep...
Well, you were also, what, 3 when that movie came out?
You can barely understand what's going on most of the time because they're moving the camera
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I don't know about you, but I get motion sickness now in my old age. And I can't watch it.
That was a thing outside of theaters. They would put a note on the door, if you get motion sickness, maybe skip this movie. Yeah,
and I don't find it scary at all. And the other thing too is that I watch Ghost Hunter stuff. Ghost Hunters have better camera quality than...
Well, yeah, but this is supposed to be crappy. It's supposed to feel like this is actually happening.
But that's...
So you wouldn't have a steady hand holding it.
But that doesn't... Even in Paranormal Activity, when they, were doing that, still better camera.
Yeah, those are movies that I don't...
No, I don't like those movies either. I'm not saying that they're good. I'm just saying that the Blair Witch Project's cameras I can understand it up until a point. Like, yes, sure, have a little bit of, you know, fear when you're moving the camera or whatever. But, like, for the majority of the movie, it is mostly...
Well, and because they tried to make a sequel, like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, where now everybody's got a GoPro and a drone and everything. And it means that didn't work, because it was like, now everything is... When the camera is doing this, you know it's because the character is running. The character is trying to get away from something. When it's sort of like a steady shot, now it's just a movie.
Yeah.
So, and there were stupid people back in the day who thought that the Blair Witch Project was real. There were plenty of people. I had a friend who was like, "No, dude, it's real. They found it in the woods."
That's what so many people were trying to tell me, and I'm like, even real ghost hunters will tell you that this doesn't happen.
No.
Like, it's played up so much.
I will admit it is a movie that, because I saw it in the theater when it came out, because I was 19, and it was different, because there were 2 horror movies that summer that blew up. It was that and The Sixth Sense, and both of them were just sort of outside of what we were so used to with horror movies. Mm-hmm. For somebody coming into the Blair Witch Project now, I could see them going, "What the fuck is this?"
I mean, if you want to see, like, I feel like ghost or paranormal movies have such a hard time. I wish some directors would actually go and be on like an investigation with like ghost hunters, or, you know, do something like that. And I'm not saying that necessarily have like the cameras pointed, you know, at a single thing or whatever, but it would be so much more interesting to have like that experience brought into a movie where it's not, where it feels artificial, but at the same time doesn't feel like overly forced. Because when I see a camera like this going like this, and yeah, you're supposed to picture the person running, I get that. However, having it be a constant and then not really having a good... I didn't feel like it was a good movie overall, because the storyline was just kind of shit. Yeah. It's like, hey, you're in the woods and you're running from something.
And there was never a script. The whole thing was improvised, and they would when they're in the tent and the tent starts shaking, that was the director just being like, "Okay, we're going to do this to them while they're trying to sleep tonight." And,
yeah.
But the reason for me that it holds up, and it's my esteem for it has dropped over the years from when I was 19 to now. But there are movies that have tried to replicate the "this is real" thing. There was one that came out just recently called Late Night with the Devil. It's not a bad movie, but it's supposed to be like a 1970s talk show, and they bring on a girl who's possessed, and, you know, it's supposed to, the whole thing's supposed to, it's shot in like the aspect ratio and everything of what a TV show would be back then. But the camera angles are wrong, and it's sort of like, no, a show from that era would not have had close-up angles in that way, and it wouldn't have had a shot over, like a more cinematic shot this way. And so, it's got actors that I recognize, and so it just takes me out of, this is real. Blair Witch Project felt like you didn't know who the actors were. They're presenting it as this really happened. And in your head, or at least if you're not stupid, you knew it wasn't real. Right. But I got lost in it enough to where I could be like, but this looks like it could be real.
Yeah. I mean, I don't discredit any of that. I think the movie just frustrates me because of the fact of how their creative approach was. And that's what flopped for me. And then on top of it, it just wasn't even scary.
No, I could see it. My number 2, sticking with Men in Drag, and actually going from the number 2 list comedy on the AFI list to the number 1 comedy on the AFI list, is Some Like It Hot.
Why is this your number 2?
It is a movie that I tried to watch, I want to say like 12 years ago, something like when my kids were growing up. I rented it, put it on for us to watch all together because I thought, well, this is going to be great. It's supposed to, it's a classic. I've always heard about this movie. I put it on just as a given that it was going to be great. And again, I didn't. I maybe cracked a smile here and there at like the parts where everybody does, but I just didn't get into it. It left me cold. I was bored for most of it. I don't remember most of it because it just didn't stick. Other than the parts that are the famous parts. Yeah. They're the famous parts that, you know, I mean, especially the end, the very, very, very end, the last line in the movie is hilarious. But then there's a whole other movie that just, for me, doesn't click.
Mm-hmm. Well, if something doesn't click and then they have a good ending line, I mean, you're kind of left with, you couldn't use that in the beginning to, like, bring me in, and that's why I have a love-hate relationship with movies, because it's like, oh, you were expecting something to be good. People tell you it's really good, and then it's just...
And there are plenty of movies where I always hear that they're good, and then I see them and they don't connect with me. But there's a movie called Chariots of Fire that is, I think it won the Oscar actually for Best Picture, and I watched it. It's got the iconic like theme music to it and everything, and just I was trying not to fall asleep during it. But with Some Like It Hot, it seemed like such a sure bet. You've got Jack Lemmon, you've got Tony Curtis, you've got Marilyn Monroe. It's considered the greatest comedy of all time, and I just didn't laugh at any of it.
Well, and you know what makes me like a little... this is gonna get me hated. So, I feel like Marilyn Monroe could have done better.
Marilyn Monroe is an icon. I think there's one movie of hers that I really like, and it's not even especially for her.
Yeah. I think...
And that's Niagara, by the way.
Yeah, I think she... she wasn't a great actress, and notice how I'm tiptoeing around this, because she's a very much beloved icon. You know, and I love her too.
She's like the Britney Spears of her day, where everybody was, leave Marilyn alone.
Yeah, but then like she also had no acting skills, but she was famous because she was gorgeous. So I'm not saying they're gorgeous, but kind of similar to like the Kardashians when they try to act and they suck at it. But, you know, people, you know, label them as, you know, gorgeous. So, of course, we're going to put them in things or whatever. Because, you know, hey, they look good. So people want to see good-looking people. You know, I'm not saying... Marilyn Monroe is 10 times better than the Kardashians. But as far as her acting goes...
She's... like in this, and I'm also thinking of like The 7-Year Itch, you could see why somebody would fall for her. Not just because she's gorgeous, but because she does exude a certain innocence and charm as well. But as far as, you're right, being a good actress,
I would have taken Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, you know, Lucille Ball, or Ava Gardner, Leslie Caron. Like, Leslie Caron can't even speak, like, perfect English, but she still would have probably done better in a comedic role.
Yeah. Like you said, it's just one that doesn't work for me. It's one I wish it did. I don't hate it.
Right.
I just, I don't connect with it in a way that...
that you feel like you should have.
Yeah. It's a movie like I would give another chance to at some point, but I wouldn't go out of my way.
Yeah, it's another napping movie.
Well, now we come down to it. Away. I cut that out. Now we come down to number one. What is the movie that you're going to piss everyone off by shitting on?
Halloween.
Okay. Explain yourself.
It's so overrated. I mean, I'm sorry, the story... Yes, it's great for the 1970s, but the remakes...
Oh, the remakes are terrible.
The remakes are terrible.
Almost every sequel is terrible.
Like, I understand you have a troubled boy who, you know, comes up from a very troubled family and, you know, essentially goes on a killing spree because he's, you know, lost his mind. He's psychotic. But the only person he doesn't kill is his sister because he has, like, this weird connection to her.
But see, now you're getting into all of the stuff that's not in the original movie. Like, him having his family's never discussed as far as their trouble. And Jamie Lee Curtis is not his sister.
Oh.
In the they make that up in, like,
in the sequel.
sequels.
See, that's where I get so confused with it because it's like, there's so much to this lore and franchise that it has become like...
There are certain movies that should never have been franchises.
Halloween is one of them.
Because the ending is so perfect of you think he's dead, but then he disappears.
Yeah.
And where is he? When's he going to pop out again? And then it just ends. But the movie is slow.
Yeah, it's slow. And then on top of it too, I just don't like the thought or feeling of that, you know, if people who have mental illnesses to this extreme, who go on killing sprees or whatever, and this is just a personal feeling, I feel I'm just like looking at it from like a mom's point of view. I'm never leaving my kids alone.
Well, Michael Myers' psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, is the worst psychiatrist that anybody's ever had.
He's the worst. And
he's evil.
Yeah, I mean, and Michael,
he's got the devil's eyes.
Yeah, I swear to God, like this whole entire movie, it's essentially, I just don't like horror movies, and I feel like this one is the big one that is so overrated and so, like, people just won't let it die.
No, they're already planning on. They did a movie called Halloween Ends like a couple of years ago, and now they're like, how do we bring him back? How do we bring him back?
How about we don't? How about we bring out a new serial killer, or, you know, do like a mockumentary of ones that we have in our country? Leave him
dead. I mean, I think they've made 10, 11, 12 of these movies at this point.
That's my whole point, is that, you know, the lore for it twists and turns, and when the original movie was fine, I still didn't like it because it was overhyped. It would have been one of those ones where it could have been like an occult following. And I mean, yeah, it has that, but it's one of those ones where it's like, it just needs to stop.
All of those horror franchises from the 80s need to stop. I mean, there's no reason to make any more movies with Jason. Don't do any more Hellraisers. No more Freddy Krueger movies.
Yeah, no.
Let them just... Nobody even wants them anymore. These movies don't even do particularly well
I'm even
anymore.
like waiting for them to change the Michael Myers mask, because they changed Freddy's appearance too. And I was just like, you know, I'm not a huge horror fan, and quite frankly, you tell me we're gonna watch a horror film and I'm out. You know, like, I can't do it. I don't like the whole idea of, you know, them bringing these things back and trying to redo them over and over and over and over again until it's dead in the ground. And then they think they can change it by, if we add a little different taste to the, you know, antagonist and everything like that. And I'm just like...
Well, and I will say, this is a take that I wouldn't have made not that long ago. But I feel like I've changed my tune on it, which is... If you keep making shitty sequels to a thing, eventually the original thing starts to get... Because I feel like I've gotten that way with Star Wars, where it's just started to get degraded to the point where it's sort of like...
it's totally degraded.
If you said, let's not watch the, you know, Empire Strikes Back, I'd be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, fuck yeah. And it's because I'm now associating Star Wars or Indiana Jones with... the shitty new things.
Yeah.
And Halloween there is one, in my opinion, one good movie in that entire franchise. The rest are okay at best, and then there are some that are just awful.
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I had a friend of mine sit me down and we watched all of the Halloween movies. I don't know how I got through it. I literally was a blanket burrito the whole time. But just watching it, and it's like, it's the same premise.
Over
Each and every time, it's this guy walking really slow, a white chick falls and doesn't know how to get back up. Teenagers are kissing in the back of a car, and he somehow shows up. The girl or the guy, gets away, and their partner gets killed. And they can't, for whatever reason, can't get away. And, it's just this guy going around just killing people, and the cops can't do shit about it.
And they keep, like, the Halloween 4 had a great ending where now he's after his niece, because Jamie Lee Curtis was sort of like, yeah, I'm not coming back for Halloween 4. But like so he's going after his niece. Michael Myers gets killed, and then at the end of the movie, the niece murders her sister. And so Dr. Loomis he like actually tries to shoot her because now she's come out in like the clown mask that Michael was wearing. Great setup. No more Michael Myers. Now we're going to move on with a different killer. They undo it like immediately in part 5. And that's the problem I have with so many of these movies is they chicken out. They're like, let's go in a completely different direction.
Well, and what? Do they think that women can't kill? Like, there are some notorious serial killer women out there. But, we don't want to make movies about that. Women are too fragile. We want to, just beat a dead horse.
Carly advocates for more female serial killers.
In movies, not real life.
Well, my number one is another movie that I have tried to like. I have never tried harder to like a movie than I have tried to like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I have been trying since I was in high school.
That's like me trying to like 2012. When everyone was telling us that, we're going to die at the end of 2012.
I thought you meant the shitty 2012 movie.
That's what I'm saying. That's like when people were trying to tell me to get into that movie. It's like trying to get into Space Odyssey.
Again, I feel like it's a movie that I appreciate it a little bit more every single time I see it, but considering the fact that I hated it the first time I saw it, it doesn't bump it up that much. I admire it, but I just don't like it. I try. I want to. I see the artistic merit in it.
I feel like it's one of those sci-fi movies that just completely and totally just...
Kinda, in that it just doesn't have a very... I have come to appreciate that it does have a story. Because I remember the first time I saw it, I felt like it was just some arty film that didn't have a story, and it was just a bunch of nonsense. And I do see the story through line now. And, I want to also say, when I say that a movie like Halloween or 2001 is slow, I'm not one of these people who just, like, I need, like, the kinetic action of, like, a movie made yesterday.
No.
I just think I like a slow burn. There are plenty of slow burn movies that I like. 2001, I get to a point with it where I'm not even paying attention anymore.
Another napping movie.
Another napping movie. I mean, it's got this whole prolonged prologue in the beginning that's like the birth of man. What are they called? The black boxes that come down that like trigger evolutionary moments for man. You never really know what they are. Which, I don't need everything explained to me, but...
It would help.
It would help to just have a little bit more... I actually prefer... There is a sequel, 2010, that I actually prefer. Because it's still a slow burn movie, but the story is more coherent. And I love Stanley Kubrick. I absolutely adore Stanley Kubrick. Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut and especially Paths of Glory are tremendous movies. And so many people consider 2001 to be his best, and it just
no.
It doesn't. It's another one that I just don't end up connecting with. It is very cold and emotionally distant. And again, it's not that I'm dumb and I don't see what they're going for. I see it. And I'm actually even fascinated by it, like the things that they're suggesting in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they present it in a way where I just don't care either. Where I'm like, by the end of the movie, we've taken our next evolutionary step and become like star children. And I'm like,
yeah, like stop now.
Please stop. This movie feels like it's going on for 4 hours, and I think it's only like not even 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've tried. It just doesn't. It doesn't click, and that's why there's, when you suggested this list, I struggled to think of movies that everybody loves that I hate.
Yeah.
I can name plenty of movies that I just hate, but they're bad movies.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Rubber nipples.
Yeah. Exorcist 2. Two movies I hate more than anything else. The second Alien versus Predator movie.
I just hate the Alien movies. I think they're pointless.
And there's a movie called Dan in Real Life with Steve Carell that...
Steve Carell is a hit or miss actor.
This movie is just it's supposed to be one of those the family is really quirky and everything, and I'm just these are awful human beings, and I hate everybody in this movie, and they want me to like them, and I hate everyone in this movie. Yeah. So there are bad movies that I can just go, fuck that movie. But as far as movies that everybody considers to be great, I have a hard time with thinking of any that I dislike that
Frozen?
much. I've never seen Frozen all the way through.
Okay.
Luckily, my kids were just
at the
out
right
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let It Go will get stuck in my head as easily as it'll get stuck in anybody else's. So.
Yeah, I mean, let it go, man.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that's the thing that's difficult about this list is that there are so many different various opinions and everything, but there are just some movies that people overhype over and over and over again, and it gets to the point where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to watch it.
It's going back to what I said about Gone with the Wind. First of all, and not often will I say this, but the movie just comes off as racist to me. Mm-hmm. If it's a movie set back then, my criteria is always if people knew that it was wrong then I have a problem with it. If it was still there's people hadn't gotten to that point yet, then I can overlook it. But it's a movie about slave owners.
Slave owners, a spoiled brat who wants to marry her cousin.
Which is the big thing for me too, is I just feel like I would hate Scarlett O'Hara. And it's 4 fucking hours long, and I don't want to watch a 4-hour Southern melodrama about a spoiled brat who owns slaves. It's just...
Who owns slaves, who, falls in love with Clark Gable's character, but not really, because she still wants to marry her cousin. Who... By the way, it's fucked up. Why would you want to marry your cousin?
I didn't even know that part of it, but...
Well, Ashley, so Ashley is a character in it. That's the male individual that Scarlett O'Hara's, character wants to boink and be with. She marries multiple people throughout the movie just because she can't have this one individual. And it's all set during the, the Civil War. And, there were some really great performances by the people who were the slaves. Even...
An Oscar.
Yeah, but she wasn't allowed to attend the Oscars. Which sucks and, racist. Yeah. But, there are great parts in the movie, but it's definitely one of those movies that you can just make fun of the whole entire time because it's this is just so stupid. And, honestly, Clark Gable could have done better. He didn't need to be in the movie. Honestly.
I mean, it's the movie he's remembered for.
Yeah, and, he's not... he's not in the movie as often as you would think he would be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he makes appearances here and there as like the romantic lead, and then towards the end of the movie he just ends up leaving her.
Yeah,
like,
frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, so like his whole entire like presence in the movie
only after he rapes her though.
Yeah. Yeah, only after he rapes her.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, up until 80s, it was legal in Minnesota that said that husbands could still legally rape their wives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, great times for us. Women's rights. It's great.
Again, like, I think both of us are able to, because we love old movies, and when you love old movies, you have to look past certain things.
Yeah. But it's one of those things too where it's like it's so ridiculous at how like the world was back then, and then even coming up, like if you think about it, there are some things that haven't changed. Like obviously we don't have slaves now or anything like that, but you know there's still things that haven't changed, or they just changed like 20, 30, 40 years ago, which isn't that long.
Nope. No, and I guess for us, for these movies that we're talking about, it sounds more like we just don't see what all of you see.
No.
And that's fine. I could also name a bunch of movies that I love that everybody else hates.
Oh, no, I could too.
Have you ever seen the A-Team movie? I love the A-Team movie. I liked Green Lantern.
That's like liking Howard the Duck. You like Howard the Duck?
I don't know if I would still like it. I liked it when I was a kid, but I was a little kid, so.
Yeah, I watched it with my ex, and he was so into it, and I'm like, this is the stupidest movie I think I have ever seen. And I love like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that's a stupid movie.
Well, that's a good, no, Roger Rabbit's a classic. Howard the Duck is not.
No, but like there are just some movies where, you know, you think about like, what were these people on?
Mm-hmm.
Were they on acid? Were they on shrooms? Who gave you a camera?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have our own, so
yeah.
Tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah.
Comment below. Bye, everybody.